In this edition of Locked On Capitals, your Washington Capitals fall to the Dallas Stars by a score of 2-0. Let's talk about that game next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, and I want to thank you for making this your first listen or view of the day. Yes, this podcast is also available in video form, so head on over to YouTube and check it out. And when you're on YouTube, make sure and hit that subscribe button, and if you like the videos, give it a thumbs up. It really helps grow the channel. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So your Washington Capitals cannot make it 3 in a row as they fall to the Dallas Stars by a score of 2-0. We'll talk about the game tonight. Then later in the show, we will talk about the valiant effort of Alex Ovechkin as he did get 7 shots on net. Ultimately, it wasn't enough. And then later in the show, we'll talk about Jake Oettinger and how the Capitals were not able to find a way to beat him. All right, just to get it going here, your Washington Capitals do, in fact, fall to the Dallas Stars by a score of 2-0. Central Division leading Dallas Stars. We knew it was going to be a tall ask for the Caps to find a way to beat them. And the record actually isn't too bad. During the game, they said that they're 4-0-1 in the last 5 games in Dallas. So on paper, it looked like the Caps were in a good position to do great things. Ultimately, it wasn't the case. And then it started off a bit rough. Protas left the ice early, got kind of tangled up in a corner. He was looked like he was going in to check someone and then kind of turned away from it awkwardly, and he left the ice. He was able to come back. And then Sheary ended up taking a puck up high right above the skate where there is no padding. And he left the ice briefly as well, but he made his way back. Why? Because hockey players are tough, of course. But the story of the game for me was just lost opportunities. And then, those kind of defensive breakdowns. How many times have we talked about that? Or how many times have you heard about that? Tonight's case, it was John Carlson coughing up the puck, which led to a scoring opportunity. Then all of a sudden it was 2-0. You take a look at the game, and there were places and times throughout the game where you thought the Caps are going to be able to get back into this game. They're going to be able to do it. They're going to be able to do it. It was a bit of a snore fest to start off because it was 1-0, for a line's share of the game. And then all of a sudden they got the second goal. And then that was it. I mean, I knew that, they pulled a goalie with like 3:50 left. And I'm like, rarely does this work. Usually what happens is the opposing team ends up shooting it down and they score another goal just to add insult to injury. Just take some salt and really rub it into that wound. But the Caps were not able to find a way to even get on the score sheet. So this misnotion that, it's the goaltending that isn't good enough is kind of a joke, really, because they're not getting any run support. Both teams had 27 shots on net, but ultimately it was not enough. And so what's the big difference between it? So the defensive breakdowns by the Capitals is what led to those opportunities for Dallas to get those goals. They made good on their opportunities, a shorthanded goal nonetheless. So the Capitals are really going to have to button it up if they want to continue to win. As of right now, they've been playing pretty rough. I know they had that good game against New Jersey, and then they had that good game against the Kings, but ultimately they have to stand tall against these teams that are formidable opponents. And the Dallas Stars are in first place in the Central Division. Those are the teams that you're going to have to go through if you want the grand prize. What is the grand prize? Of course, hoisting the Stanley Cup over your head in June and say, we can do it. And, I'm not saying that all is lost. I'm just saying it was a rough game. There's definitely things that they could work on. But for the people that out there that say the defense it needs work, well, this didn't do anything, to further an argument that they're wrong, because the defense, John Carlson tonight, a veteran defenseman, of the Capitals, coughed up the puck, led to a scoring opportunity. That was the dagger. That was the death blow for the Capitals. That was curtains. So the Caps hope to get back into the win column on Saturday against the Nashville Predators. That's one of the teams that kind of gives the Caps fits from time to time. You don't really know what kind of Nashville Predators team you're going to be playing against. Sometimes they're poor, sometimes they're good. But even the years that the Nashville Predators are poor, sometimes they can present really big challenges to the Capitals. So it's, the one thing they don't want to do is they don't want to go into playing Nashville and fall into what they call a trap game, where you go in there and you think that you're going to win the game and you kind of take your foot off the gas and the other team just runs you right over. So one of the things that the Caps or several of the things the Caps will have to do is just work on the things that they did wrong in this game. The defense, not getting enough power play production. They don't make good on the power play. They really need to work on that. They have these golden opportunities and they don't make good on it. And what is my diagnosis? What is my feeling on what's wrong there is that it's a bit too predictable. You have Ovi setting up in his office and they shoot it, they do the triangulation thing and then Ovi shoots at home. And guess what? Teams have kind of planned for that. So I think that's what they're going to have to do is just kind of shake up the snow globe a little bit and try to give these teams a little bit different looks, because ultimately, if this team wants to win, if they have any plans of making it past the first round or even to the playoffs at all, they're really going to have to button things up here. We can't fall back on the excuses of last year. What did everyone say last year? Well, it's Samsonov and it's Vanacek. That's why the Caps didn't do anything. Kuemper and Charlie Lindgren have stood on their head for this team. And, if Darcy Kuemper tonight, a valiant effort. There was nothing he could have done. He didn't allow any beach balls, shall we say. It was just the defense folding and not getting enough scoring opportunities. You don't want to, read into things too much. It is just a loss, but a big goose egg kind of makes you think things aren't going in the right direction. Again, we knew it was going to be a tough task against a Dallas Stars team that has a lot of firepower, and they're in first place for a reason. So that's some of the things that the Capitals are going to have to work on going forward here. All right, so after the break here, we are going to talk about why weren't the Capitals able to crack Oettinger tonight? What was it about him that made it just so hard for the Capitals to get past him? We'll talk about that next. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores with every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. And guys, if you want to go out and bet on the Caps Predators game on Saturday, BetOnline is your perfect place to do that. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and beyond the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, where it's your team every day. In this episode, we are talking about the Capitals as they fall to the Dallas Stars by a score of 2-0. It's one of the things they're just going to have to brush off their shoulders as they roll in and play the Nashville Predators next. But why were the Capitals not able to crack Jake Oettinger? What was it about him? There weren't a lot of shots on goal to start, but there was scoring chances there for the Capitals. Ovechkin had quite a few looks, including a shot that rang off the crossbar early and a point-blank chance in front of Oettinger was able to stop, writes Washington Hockey Now. The first line of Ovechkin, Dylan Strome, and Connor Sheary generated some zone time and continues to have chemistry, but they couldn't make much happen against a strong Dallas blue line. a strong blue line. You guys hear what we're talking about here? What could the Capitals have used tonight? A strong blue line, so they're not coughing up the puck and having other teams score shorthanded goals. Ovechkin led Washington with 7 shots and also hit 2 crossbars, and the team turned up the pressure late in the third with the net empty with over 3 minutes to go, and both teams playing 4-on-4. The Capitals, who had been trailing in shots, ultimately tied the Stars 27-27 in shots on goal. But in the end, the comeback was a little too late. And there was never much they could do. Once it's 2-0, and it was a game, where the Dallas Stars had the defense clamped down, unless there was some real breakdown in their systems, the Capitals were not going to be able to get into this game. I thought they were going to be able to pick up a goal, but I did not think they were going to be able to pick up a W tonight. And while there were crafty plays, none of them connected, and there weren't a lot of chances as the Stars defense did well in front of the red-hot Oettinger. There also weren't a lot of shot chances in tight. And, they were getting the shots on goal. So we got to give credit where credit's due, right? If it was a game where they were getting, half of those shots on net, what would I be talking to you guys about right now? They got to get more shots on net. So it's the little things. When it's a game, when it's a low scoring game, the defense has to clamp down and make sure that you're not giving your opponent an opportunity to score. Because guess what? Dallas made you pay, and the good teams will make you pay when you make stupid mistakes. I don't mean to speak disparagingly of John Carlson. He'll be revered as one of the best defensemen of the Capitals when we look back on his career. But just these breakdowns that we look at, they got to work on them. And I know that, the coaching staff is aware of it. And I'm sure that Peter Laviolette and his coaching staff is going to go over the film with everyone and say, let's work on this. But, some of the guys that are on the Caps coaching staff, maybe, in the offseason, they move on from them. I hate to say, and I don't mean to speak disparagingly of them, but, let's take a look at Blaine Forsythe, for example. How many years has he been there? Quite a few years, even back to the Barry Trotz administration. So, if they're not getting the production from these coaches, this kind of flies in the face of what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about getting rid of Peter Laviolette right now. That's not what I'm talking about. But if at the end of the season, for example, this team is not able to find a way to make a big push, then maybe they need to shake things up a little bit. I know they kind of wanted to do things on the cheap when they got Peter Laviolette by keeping the assistants and that kind of thing. But what I'm going to say is at the end of the season, if they make another first round exit, or say they don't make it to the playoffs at all for some reason, then I'm all about making change. But what I would do in that case is, because we know Peter Laviolette is up for a new contract, and signing him to a new contract, if they have a horrible season, seems ridiculous to me. Then I think you just strip it all down, take all the coaches out. That's Forsythe, that's everyone, and start all over again. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but when you have games like this, it kind of just gets those thoughts rolling around in your head a little bit there. But Oettinger, on top of his game, after emerging as one of the biggest breakout stars of the 21-22 Stanley Cup playoffs, Oettinger has picked up right where he left off. The 23-year-old entered Thursday's game with a .953 save percentage and an NHL-best 1.41 goals against over his first 5 starts. The Stars' blue line didn't put him in many difficult positions, but Oettinger responded when called upon. And, a good goalie. Guess what? I don't want to hear that, the Dallas Stars won because they have a good goalie. The Capitals have 2 amazing goalies. They just don't get the defense in front of them. That's what everyone's saying. Well, Darcy was good for the Avalanche, but he sucks on the Capitals. Just shut up with all that. You really haven't watched a game, have you? Because the net minding on the Capitals has been stout. It's been stellar. I'm going to say right now, they just need the defense in front of them to not have all these scoring opportunities. He wrestled the starting job away from Braden Holtby last season, and the Stars showed no reservation about handing him the crease following his performance in their first-round playoff series against the Flames that went 7 games. Thursday's game provided 0 reasons to doubt that confidence, writes NBC Sports Washington. And I agree with that assessment. Oettinger stood on his head, but, again, great goaltending in Dallas, but we have great goaltending in Washington too. It's just fine tuning the things that are going wrong, taking the screwdriver and screwing down the screws where the heads are popping up and figuring things out, because I don't think all is lost. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of easy to go down that negative path, isn't it, when things don't go well? But you got to kind of widen the lens and, take the Vaseline off the lens and see things clearly. It's going to be okay. We just need to work on things a little bit. It's getting the defense. Take a look at the defense. It's what I talked about in this podcast all summer. We were all singing, all love for the defense for the Washington Capitals. Who would we want to part with? We don't want to part with anyone. Let's remember that. It's, they're prone to making mistakes, but they need to work on those mistakes. I'm not saying John Carlson's a bad defenseman. Like I said, he'll be revered as one of the best, but just working on those opportunities in a game that is that close, you really got to try to avoid those opportunities as much as you can because, again, like I talked about, the Dallas Stars will make you pay, and that is what they did tonight. So that's my takeaway from it is, I don't think all hope is lost, and all that. I'm not getting crazy about it, but what I'm saying here is that the Capitals are just going to have to work on their, trying to eliminate those opportunities. All right. So after the break here, we are going to talk about Darcy Kuemper and what kind of game he had. Darcy Kuemper played one heck of a game out there. And that's what we don't want to overlook that. Everyone's saying what a great job Oettinger did. Let's talk about the job that Darcy did. Let's talk about that next. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I use Simply Safe in my own home. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. Here's why I love it. I had an issue where someone broke into my home. Simply Safe dispatched the police and took care of the situation. With 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency. Even if you're not at home or can't be reached, Simply Safe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion that and alert you when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Our monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, where it's your team every day. In this episode, we are going over the game against the Capitals versus the Dallas Stars. And what are some of the things that they need to work on? What we've talked about throughout the show is the defense and the things that they need to work on. Then we've talked about Jake Oettinger and what a great job he did in net. But let's talk a little bit about Darcy. Darcy, has done an excellent job for this team. He's had to stand on his head. And I don't want to hear anyone, any Caps fan saying that, it's the goaltending that sucks, because that is nonsense if you watch the game. Another good takeaway from the Capitals, the goaltending continues to work out. It was not a good night for the district when it came off to the face-off circle, and the shot counter writes Washington hockey now as the Stars dominated in the circle and won the possession game while also getting the upper hand when it came to shots on goal for the majority of the game. Those would even up at the end of regulation. The biggest reason that Washington remained in it until the end was Darcy Kuemper. So if we want to take a look and, rewind time a little bit, if you think the game tonight was rough, could you imagine if we still had Samsonov and Vanacek? Just think about that for a minute. The 2 goals against don't fall on Kuemper, though, as there wasn't much he could do either. Other than those goals against, he was stellar in goal, coming up with big stops and serving as a reliable force between his pipes. He also helped slow things down, made smart plays, and kept things tight. He finished with 25 saves on 27 shots. If you're doing math at home, that's good for a .926 save percentage. So that's what I'm talking about there, is we cannot ask for much more of Darcy Kuemper and Charlie Lindgren, who I thought played stellar the other night. So, hats off to those guys. The other news that is breaking as I'm recording this right now is that Dmitry Orlov could face disciplinary action for the controversial hit on Mason Marchment. It was a physical battle and a tight game between both sides for the first 40, and That came with a questionable hit from Dmitry Orlov. The 31-year-old delivered a big open ice hit while going one-on-one against Marshman and ended up catching the Stars forward in the chin with his forearm. The hit to the head went uncalled, but it could result in a call from the NHL Department of Player Safety. And of course, I will keep you guys updated, with updates throughout the day. If something does happen with Dmitry Orlov, that is why you need to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube as well, because I will release videos throughout the day if there's any updates on Dmitry Orlov or any news breaking on. But of course, the podcasts are also available wherever you get your audio podcasts. But the best thing to do, we all listen to audio and watch video podcasts, is just hit that subscribe button or follow, and then that way when all the stuff is out. But that's the big thing. The thing to look out for tomorrow is I'm sure we will get word about what is going on with Dmitry Orlov. Will he, go unscathed on that one? I will have to go back and take a look at that hit. I guess I do not recall seeing anything in the game that warranted a gasp like, oh my God, I can't believe that was a horrible hit. But the big takeaway for me on this game is just, it's not doom and gloom, Capitals fans out there. I think it's going to be okay. Again, you just got to button it up. You got to figure out what's going wrong. Those nail heads that are sticking up in the deck, you got to pound them down with a hammer and just figure it out. It's going to be okay with this team. I just think they got to work on things. This is a veteran core of players. We're not dealing with a bunch of rookies out here for the most part. These are all seasoned veterans that have been in the league for some time. And let's concentrate on the good. Let's talk about Alex Ovechkin as he continues to get great production. He did not find the back of the net, but 7 shots on goal is what it's talking about. It's those years when you hear about the players that don't even get shots on net. That is the frustrating moment. Got to get shots on net if you want to win hockey games. So again, it's all is not lost here. It's just that they need to fine tune things here. At the end of the day, it was a 2-0 game. It hurts that they weren't able to get on the score sheet at all, but it could have been a lot worse, if they didn't have the likes of Darcy Kuemper out there. That is my big takeaway on it. So thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen today. For your next listen, check out Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest news, game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app at YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for sticking up late with me here on Locked On Capitals, where it's your team every day. Let's hope for a big win against the Predators on Saturday. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.